Welcome to Doing Life. I'm Jeff. This is my wife, Alyssa. Now, we're very excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking about rhythms. Now, I think the reason we're most excited is I would honestly say this is probably one of the most life-changing topics in our marriage.
Yeah,
would you say that?
No, not many people talk about.
Yeah, and not many people talk about it. And what we mean by rhythms is to have a healthy marriage, you have to kind of set these cadences, or you kind of have to set these rhythms or these ways of going about the day. And the story I like to think of that hopefully illustrates this is I was one of those middle school band guys. You know, like I played band. I was in the band in middle school. I played the trombone, not very long. So it wasn't really a part of our story. I never told you. I'm ashamed of that part. But really, realistically, what I want to say to you guys is I would play the trombone, and I remember learning in middle school how to play that instrument. And if you've learned to play an instrument, you know the beginning is not very good, right? I would play and it'd be terrible. It would not sound good. I didn't know how to play songs any particular music. Right. And let's just say my mom wasn't in the other room. You know, my mom wasn't really the cheer mom of like, she didn't know how to lie. So, which is a good thing.
She totally cheered you on.
Best cheerleading mom ever.
Right.
Encouraged me and was incredible, but she didn't really fake it to me in a good way.
Right.
And so when I was playing and learning to play music, she didn't say, "Oh, great job, honey," because it wasn't. It sounded terrible, and she probably wanted to run out of the house. Now, she still would encourage me.
She's gracious for letting you learn that.
Exactly. She would still encourage me and still say, "Hey, that's really good," you know, or you need to keep getting better. And what I mean by that is this. There's rhythms and there's music in the universe. God set this earth and the cosmos into existence with a cadence, with a rhythm.
Yeah.
And a lot of us live in that broken music way where we don't submit to the rhythms or the music God's created. And I think a lot of times we just expect other people to say, "Oh yeah, that's good," or "That's awesome." It's like, no, you're not playing the right music. Now, of course, you know, not to shame the person, but it's like, hey, keep growing. Keep learning. Try to fall in line with the music. Try to play the right notes. And I think that has a lot to do with our autonomy as humans, is we aren't the ones creating the music. The music is playing. There's rhythms in the universe, and we are to submit to that. What would you say to that?
And I think, too, like, learning that God is a rhythmic God. Like, in the Old Testament, there are so many rhythms.
So many traditions and rhythms and things.
There was Sabbath that they took. There was all these holidays. There were these rests that he commanded.
Remember.
Right, because he knew that's how humans were created, and that was the best for them. Like vacations and all these things, like you need it. And I think in the Christian culture, we often hear like, "Oh, this is just a season," and it is. And like, there's different seasons that God takes us through, and different rhythms and cadences throughout life. Yeah. And then learning to do that within your family is really important.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I like to say that rhythms is almost the secret sauce to a healthy marriage. That if you're understanding what that means, and if you're actually building that into your marriage, it goes really, really well for you. So we want to show you guys a video. This is from Chip and Joanna Gaines. We love them. We are fangirls and fanboys of them. They are amazing. And they're specifically going to talk about home and hospitality, because I believe and we believe that's where rhythms start. So take a look.
You know, there's nothing sweeter to me than home and hospitality. I love just opening up our home to our friends, and even just when it's just as simple as setting the table for my children, you know, just really letting them understand the meaning of home. And that's where we're intentional, whether it's with dinner or when we wake up in the morning for breakfast. I want home to be a sweet place, not only for my family, but friends. And for us, I mean, this is what we get to do for a living. We get to create homes for our clients, and so it's really a dream come true for us.
Sure. You know, the irony of this all is, I mean, I started in the lawn care business. I just had a little lawn care company here in Waco, Texas, and got into landscape and irrigation. And as that little business grew, I saved up some money and essentially bought my first property. And back in the day, and still I have a bit of a problem referring to houses or homes as units or properties, you know, because they were kind of investments to me, just like a car dealership might have cars as inventory. I happen to have homes. But, you know, the further I've gotten in my career, I think that was not an accident. You know, I feel like what are the chances that I got into the home business? You know, we renovated homes, we built homes from the ground up, and the fact that we have become so passionate about how life really happens in our home. You know, I mean, everybody loves their car, but I don't think you'd ever see the argument that life happens in your car, but the home is really where your heart is, and the fact that we have the opportunity to serve our clients through that industry is really an honor.
I love what Chip and Joe say about how rhythms really start within your family and at home and with hospitality. And I know for me, I remember when we were first married.
Yeah, I was really passionate about this.
You were really passionate. You were going to seminary. You were studying the Old Testament. We went to Israel, and you were really passionate about Sabbath and rhythms in our family and starting out our family and developing the vision for us.
Yeah.
And I was really excited for that. I loved that you were doing that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of didn't have a clue what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, the Sabbath, that's like old school. Like, we live in the new covenant now. I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, Alyssa, I really want to develop Sabbath in our family. I think this is really important. And I was like, sure. But I really drug my foot a lot.
Yeah.
And so we would plan a day once a week to set aside. You turned off your phone. We would rest. We would read. But I kind of just felt like, if I'm honest, I kind of felt like, oh, this is just like Jeff's day.
Yeah, you never kind of bought in.
I never bought in. I was kind of like, Jeff got to do whatever he wanted to do, but I'm a mom, so I still have to like cook and clean and all these things.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was really hard for me, if I'm honest. And then we kind of reinstated it into our family after our son was born.
Yep.
And all of a sudden now it's like, I love Sabbath.
You want to start craving
And
it.
I crave it. I look forward to it so much. And so this is a big rhythm for us in our family, a practical way.
Yeah.
We set aside 24 hours. It starts at dinner. It ends the dinner the next day.
Yeah.
We have a special dinner. I try to do all my laundry, all my errands, all the cleaning before, so I can totally rest. And I love it. I feel like we're just intentional with each other. We get good family time.
Yeah.
And you actually do nothing. And then within the 24 hours when it's done, I actually feel rested and ready to go for the rest of the week.
Totally.
And so practical, we have set Sabbath as a rhythm.
Yep.
We also have really set date night, which before kids, we thought that was kind of like, oh, I don't understand why that's so important.
Exactly. Yeah.
But now with kids,
You
it's
really
like
gotta schedule
we
it.
really need it. And it really gives life to our marriage, vitality to our marriage, because we can talk and not be interrupted and have this special time together.
Yeah.
And then traditions, having holidays and having those special things that we love. And I think it just kind of gives a cadence to our family.
Yes.
Things we look forward to, getting through the week. And it's really life-giving for us.
Yeah, and we want to make sure you're not hearing us say that this is an absolute rule. If you do this, you're sinning. But I think rhythms is a rule, but you got to figure that out for your family. You got to figure that out for your marriage.
What gives life to your family?
Exactly.
What do you need?
Yeah.
What's healthy for you guys individually?
And for us, we've set those pillars. Sabbath, a day of rest and celebrating once a week, date nights, and then also big traditions. Those are the lenses in which we see rhythms. I know.
And we don't always do Sabbath.
Totally.
It's kind of like there's so much grace there too.
Exactly. I think of traditions with family friends of ours. There's a pastor friend of ours back in Washington where we used to live, and one thing that they do is every birthday for their kids, they kind of call it the hot seat, and they take their kid, they put him in a seat, they put him in the center of the room, and then they basically just kind of, without raising their hand or anything, the rest of the family just start saying things they love about that person, things they saw that week that were encouraging, or that year and how much they grew since last birthday,
I love
on
that.
and on and on. And that's them developing those traditions. And here's what it comes down to. I think in the Western world, we see time as linear, and in some degree it is, of course, but also I think in the Bible we see it cyclical. Right? It kind of is almost more like this forward-moving spiral. I think when you do that, it brings anchor to your days, it brings anchor to your weeks, and it brings anchors to your years.
And things that your family, your kids remember, and it's kind of like their lineage that they bring on.
And personally, I know for us, it was actually a really fun part early in our marriage of kind of hitting the drawing board and saying, what are those going to be?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Let's make some rhythms, and it really comes down to what fills you up the most and what brings you closer to the Lord the most. So think about that, ask your spouse that, and be encouraged that it is for your joy to set rhythms. We're so excited to tell you about these two guidebooks and then also our main book, Love That Lasts. Now, what this is these are books that we wrote. They came from our story. Two of them are guidebooks, so they have exercises and kind of fill in the blanks and
him
things
and
of
her.
that. Yeah, things of that nature. And then a main book that's our story. That's our journey of dating, breaking up, getting engaged, getting married, having kids. And what these three books in total are trying to do is answer the question of what's God's vision for marriage, for sexuality, for the journey we're on in dating and engagement and romance.
And then the workbooks are just things we've learned on the 12 main topics in marriage. Communication, conflict, and the mentors that have poured into us and given us so much wisdom on those topics.
Receive your copy of Love That Lasts as TBN's thank you for any gift of support today. And with a gift of $70 or more, we'll also include the His and Hers interactive workbooks. Call or click now to share a gift and request yours. And start building a love that lasts.
There are a lot of things that can be harmful to your relationship or hurtful to your relationship. But I think we really saw this right after our son was born, that there is a big thing.
That's not very obvious.
That's not very obvious, that a lot of people don't really talk about, that is actually really harmful to a relationship. So we have a video for you guys. Take a look.
The thing that we believe actually gives life to a relationship, meaning like when I feel like we're doing our best, it's usually because we are being the most proactive that week or that month in our relationship. We weren't ships in the night, we weren't just passing each other, we were saying, how are you doing? How are you doing? How can we encourage? How can I encourage you? Not to give an illustration from gardening, but I guess I have to because I've been gardening lately, and you didn't think I was gonna stay with it, but I did.
You did.
Yeah, what? Did you think I was gonna stay with it? No, she had ample reason to not think I was gonna stick with it because that's my personality. Yeah, that's a better way to put it. I'm the guy, and let me know, fellas, if this is you. I'm the guy that starts something and then I'm like, move on to the next thing. It's totally ADHD. But gardening, I've been crushing it. I'm not gonna lie. It's been awesome. We've been yielding fruit and herbs and all these things, and I've stayed with it. But back to my main point. With gardening, I've realized, and I was just telling you this a few minutes ago, tomatoes and basil, all different things we have, they start to come up and then show fruit or kind of show that they're growing well. And then that's usually when I start going, oh, like I've been taking so much care of it and they're doing good, I guess I can just leave them for a little bit. I don't need to concentrate on it as more. I don't need to take care of it as much as anymore. And what happens is the moment I do that, the moment I get complacent is actually when it starts to die. And I think relationships are just like that. We usually get complacent when we think we're doing okay. Not always, but usually. And that's when a lot of stuff can sneak in. So be on guard against that. And we also believe if you want the most joy-filled marriage or joy-filled dating relationship on your way to marriage, it's by not being complacent. And so I think that's all I had. I know I'm gonna talk about, I wanted to mention one thing in dating, and you were going to talk about it in a marriage context, right?
I was thinking, as you were talking in dating, I think maybe complacency can happen more if you've been together for a longer bit of time.
Yeah, the butterflies wear off.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important that in a dating relationship, any relationship, the foundation should be a friendship.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
If it is just like attraction.
If you're just making out all the time and then all of a sudden,
If it is just attraction.
Don't lie, I know that's you. I know.
That can wane.
No, if the attraction wanes,
Yeah, it can wane, and so then you can be more complacent and like more, just
that's a good point.
out more on your phone, not pursuing each other. But if it's a friendship, which is the foundation that goes into marriage, then I think it is more like knowing each other's heart and what you're thinking and what you're dreaming about, and really pursuing each other. It's a lot more fun than just attraction.
That's a really good point. Yeah, complacency will show you what your relationship's truly made of, and it'll show you what the foundation is. Either you are making out all the time and you actually don't like each other, you just like making out with each other, or you're actually friends, and that is a great foundation for a relationship.
And then,
go ahead.
And then in marriage, I think it's easy to be complacent because once you start having kids and you get your job and your house, it's
you kind of just pass.
You just have a lot of responsibilities, and so your husband or wife can get more on like not being number one anymore, they can be number 5. And I've really struggled with that and having to fight to put Jeff first above anything else, because we don't want a child-centered home. We want our marriage to be our marriage to be strong and firm, and that brings life and that brings security to the kids and all that. And so really wanting to fight for that and to pursue him and to still have that friendship deepen and to still have that spark in our marriage instead of just being roommates and doing all the things that we need to do.
Yep.
I think when you first are dating or when you're first married, you have all the puppy love emotions and you're super excited. And I think especially as a new wife, you're really excited to serve your husband and to be home and make the meals and serve him in a lot of ways. And it can be really exciting. But then after the first year goes by,
you start having kids,
you start having
start stacking up,
it gets kind of hard. And I think especially with having kids, you kind of lose track of your husband sometimes. It can be really easy, whether it's just you're loaded down by the meals or the laundry or the kids' needs. Like, kids have a whole lot of needs. And sometimes you kind of forget about your husband a little bit. And it can be really detrimental to your relationship where you we've struggled with this, where you sometimes feel a little like, oh, I'm not thinking of you. You feel left out.
Kind of just ships in the night. We go to bed, we wake
roommates.
up.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. It's just all the little things.
Yes.
And I think the main thing is thinking of your spouse first. thinking about what he likes, what he needs, how can you serve him. And it can be so simple.
Yeah.
Like I remember right after we had our son, and I wanted to serve you in some way to know that you are important to me.
Yeah.
And so I wrote on the bathroom mirror.
Oh, yeah, with the dry erase marker.
Yeah, 10 little things that I was really thankful for that I saw in you.
Yeah.
And it made a total difference. Not only did it encourage you, but I felt like for me it was like, oh yeah, like the reason why we have kids is because we love each other.
Yeah, exactly. They're a symbol and an icon of our love and our marriage.
Right, it starts with us.
Yeah.
And so not getting complacent, which, there's rhythms and sometimes you get complacent whether you're tired or it's a season. But just thinking of what little ways you can serve them and show them that you really care and that you really love them.
Yeah, and I think to your point too, it's sometimes I think we overdo it and say it's got to be some huge big thing to fight against complacency. But what you wrote on the mirror probably took 2 minutes. You know, and so I think
And it was like with a baby on my hip and a toddler on the bathroom sink.
Exactly, and be okay with it being small because those are sometimes even bigger than you think. And then another thing I want to say is it's not just necessarily you can get complacent when you're tired, but I think we also get really complacent when things are going really well. Right, when things are going really good.
Yeah.
And so the example I think of, which you know this, is, again, I love gardening. I've talked about this before. I got all the supplies. I got the garden box. I got the soil. I got the seed. I got new hoses and all this stuff. And I started gardening really good and really faithful every single day. I'd water it. I'd make sure it was okay.
I was really impressed.
Exactly. And then once I actually started kind of seeing the fruit, so for example, I think we had basil and I would get that and make pesto. We had tomatoes. I'd put that in some of our lunches and salads. Once I started bearing a lot of fruit, I noticed I got a lot lazier. I didn't water it every single day as much. I didn't take care of it every single day as much. And that's because for me, I was putting in the hard work. And then once I started receiving from that, or once it started getting the result I wanted, I stopped. When in reality, the reason I got that result is because of the faithfulness and because of the daily watering and the daily faithfulness.
Sometimes it's just the really small things.
Exactly, and that is like watering and elements and all those things. And so that's one thing I want to encourage you guys out there with is when it's going really well for you, don't get complacent. And I think we're talking about rhythms today. That's the best way to not get complacent. If you know you got to do something tomorrow, or you have to take a date night, or you're going to take a Sabbath, or someone's big tradition is next, that's a way to not get complacent because those rhythms are just natural markers throughout the week, throughout the month. And so we love rhythms. We are big believers in rhythms. Make those rhythms, have those conversations, and be faithful. And complacency, in my opinion, when you do that, will fall by the wayside. We are so excited for our new book, Love That Lasts, because it's a book with our story, about our story, primarily on why God's heart and vision for sexuality, marriage, and love is better than ours. These are books that we wrote. They came from our story. 2 of them are guidebooks, so they have exercises and kind of fill in the blanks and
him
things
and
of
a
that.
her.
Yeah, things of that nature. And then a main book that's our story. That's our journey of dating, breaking up, getting engaged, getting married, having kids.
And then the workbooks are just things we've learned on the 12 main topics in marriage. Communication, conflict, and the mentors that have poured into us and given us so much wisdom on those topics.
If you appreciate programs like this, we hope you'll help TBN keep them coming to you by sharing a gift of support. As you do, we'll say thank you by sending you their eye-opening new book, Love That Lasts. And with a gift of $70 or more, we'll also include the His and Hers interactive workbooks. Call or click now to share a gift and request yours, and start building a love that lasts.
Now we're at the segment in the show where we give the tip of the week. I love this part.
Yes.
So for you ladies out there, and I think this one episode, I really want to speak to all the moms out there.
Older, younger,
yes,
you got toddlers,
older,
you got teenagers. Yep.
As we're talking about rhythms and what gives you life and what gives you joy within your family, I think for moms too, I'm realizing developing a rhythm in your own life and having self-care. And sometimes self-care, we don't want to talk about that in the Christian culture because it's selfish, or you know, you want to give yourself, and as a mom, you're always constantly giving yourself and pouring yourself out. But as a newer mom, I'm really learning that if I am filling myself up, doing things that care for myself, that fill me up, then I can pour myself out better and I can be a better mom. So I think a rhythm, not only a rhythm in a family, but rhythm in your own life. What gives you joy? What gives you energy? What refuels you? Because you can't just constantly spend yourself. And so for me, I love spending time in God's Word every morning with my coffee, and not that I get to it every morning at all, especially with babies waking up really early. And then also I love going for walks. That's kind of when I process things. That's when I talk to the Lord. And it's not every day, but if I can get it in
But
2 to 3, it's rhythmic. If I can get it in 2 to 3 times a week, it really gives me a lot of joy. And then also I've found reading before bed. If I can shut off my phone and not be on TV, not that those things are bad at all, but just having that time to kind of just relax my mind and think and enjoy. I really like fiction books, so enjoying a book that just is really fun and lighthearted, those are things that give me life and that I can kind of refresh myself so that I can pour myself out better. And then another side note, another tip for the week is that if your husband...
Ooh, are they getting a bonus tip?
They're getting a bonus tip.
2 tips.
So if your husband comes to you with an idea or a vision or a rhythm he wants to implement in the family, I think supporting him in it and being excited that he is leading in this way, that he has a vision, and just jumping right in and going with it. And really applauding him for, wow, thanks for wanting to develop this rhythm in our family. I think it shows him, it encourages him as a leader, and it shows that you believe in him and that you are his biggest cheerleader. So those are my 2 big things for this week.
Those are good. Guys, I have a tip for you, and it's funny because I'm starting to realize this is almost my tip every single week, but it's take initiative. But in this particular topic, what does that look like? And so take initiative, lead. What does that look like? So again, we tossed out some ideas. There's more than this, but you got Sabbath, you got date night, you got traditions. Lead with that. Again, take some time. Don't be reactive. Be proactive. Wake up before the kids. Wake up before your wife. Spend 30 minutes and say, what are some really fun things I can institute in our family or in our marriage rhythmically that'll breed life in our relationship? I think back to the Sabbath one specifically with some mentors of ours. You know, the way that he did that and the way that he led is he had some really creative ways to do that. So they take one day off a week, they celebrate, they party, they eat a good meal. But he had some really particular things with that because of his creativity, where he made sure he went to a candle store because he likes lighting the candle during Sabbath to signify that. And he said, hey, what's the one scent that you have never discontinued? Basically, since you've opened, what's the scent you've never, not had? And they said, and I don't know if he thought it smelled amazing, but he got it because he goes, I wanted to be intentional, and I wanted that smell to be the smell of Sabbath for our kids and our family forever, and that would have given us the best shot to keep the same scent all the way throughout. I think of another guy friend of mine in regards to date night. They write down in a journal and they ask each other these questions every single week about taking the pulse of their marriage. I think about us. One thing fun we do on date night is we've made a bucket list where we just spent one date saying, what are the things we want to do this year? Fun stuff. We want to cook a meal together. We want to bungee jump. That wasn't on there because I don't want to bungee jump. We want to go swim with the whales or whatever it is. We live on Maui. So I'd love that, right? I'm making things up, right? Because we've done a lot on our bucket list already for the year. But what I'm saying with that is we made a bucket list, and then a fun thing we do is when we go do that bucket list, we have a Polaroid camera, super retro, right? Remember parents out there when that was actually the really cutting edge technology? And we take a picture of ourselves doing that bucket list item, and we put those in a journal and we put those in a notebook. And how fun will that be to look back on those traditions, to look back on those things, and look back on that bucket list? And that comes down to rhythm. It comes down to initiative. So guys, take initiative, lead, be okay, trying to be creative, be fun. And again, don't forget to ask your wife because you don't want to think of things that she actually hates. So feel free to say, hey, what would fill you up? What would you enjoy? What would you like? What do you think the kids would like? And then get creative, think of things, come back to her and say, I've got a plan. I want to do this. But
and I think we mentioned it in another episode maybe, but if you have older kids, our friends, once a year, they kind of do a family summit. So they'll go to a cabin or a hotel with the whole family. Recap the year,
set
ask
goals,
them their highs and lows, and then their goals for the next year, which I think is super cool when you have older kids and you want to include them in the family rhythms.
So make it appropriate to your way of life, to your marriage, to your kids, and all of that. But
be creative, and it's okay if it doesn't work out.
Exactly.
Just keep working through it.
Exactly. But in closing, I mean, I think a lot of people maybe just want some wisdom on this. They're hearing this and saying, how, or
this
why.
Is new.
Exactly. And so maybe just pray for them or offer that guidance of saying, hey, take it to the Spirit, take it to the Lord, and He gives you those things.
Okay, so let's pray. God, thank you that you're a good God, that you're creative, that you have set within us and within the world rhythms and seasons, and just like Ecclesiastes talks about, God. And I pray that you would give these families and these couples and these men wisdom, Lord, of rhythms to instill in their family, of what gives them life, what gives them joy, what fills them up, what refuels them, what are creative things to pass down to their kids that they can pass down to their kids and be like, oh, this is a Smith thing that we do, and it's super fun. And God, I just pray that you would give them wisdom in this. Thank you that you are for our joy and for life, and we love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. So we just want to close this out, but I thought of, again, one fun, creative example. Again, our friends of ours, they have this rhythm and this tradition where every time they go out to eat, the kids are allowed to guess the check, meaning like
down to the cent.
Yeah, the parent will hold the receipt and say, kids, guess. They have to guess the exact total, and if they do, they get kind of however much money is left in the bank, and it goes up $100 per year until someone guesses it. So I think the kids have never guessed it, so it's upwards of like $800, $900, whatever. And if the kids guess it sooner or later to the exact cent, they get that money. It's fun, it's awesome, and then the tradition restarts back to zero, and they can keep guessing. So we love you guys. Make sure to say hi to us on social media. We love making this a conversation and a two-way street. So we'll see you guys next week. Coming up next week, we are talking about conflict.
My favorite subject.
That's right, everyone's favorite subject, but it is one of those things that we like to avoid, but if you really center in on it, it can bring huge benefits to your relationship if you really walk through how to do it well. So tune in. We also have some special guests.
We'll be having Chip and Joanna Gaines, two of my favorite people, talk about how they can work together.
Yeah, so see you guys next week.
Favorite things is connecting with you on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We love hearing from you.
So we can't wait to do live with you guys. Come say hi.